Good morning. Good morning. Nice friendly audience. And a very warm welcome to the 2018 BIHIMA Conference and Exhibition. This is the first time our manufacturers have come together under one roof to talk specifically about future technology and its opportunities. I'm Paul Surridge, Chairman of the Manufacturers Association, and it's my pleasure to set the scene for the next 2 days and introduce some of our guest speakers. Just a few housekeeping notes. For those with hearing difficulties, I think we have been in contact with you before the event, but there are some reserved seating at the front. If anyone else would like to take advantage of that reserved seating, then please do so. There are no fire test alarms due today. So if we do hear an alarm, there will be a warning, and then there will be a second warning if we need to do anything about it. So there's no need to immediately rush out of the room. The toilets are outside of the room, I believe to the left and right. I should know, but I think they're to the left and the right there. Now, no smoking, no pipes, cigars, or cigarettes. And of course, we used to say that years ago, but we don't seem to say it so much now for obvious reasons. A word about social media. We're keen to share news from the conference with the wider world. So do keep posting and tweeting. And when you do, please can you use the hashtag BIHIMAConf, C-O-N-F. You'll see the hashtag on the screens in the exhibition hall where all tweets will be appearing. And one of our manufacturers, Starkey, have a selfie picture board, if you're inclined. So do keep snapping selfies and sharing them. And could I just ask you, if you would, to switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent, please. Okay, I want to start with a thought experiment. I want you to imagine, I want you to travel back in time 100,000 years BC, when Neanderthal man roamed the earth. You're wandering through the dense bush and you come across a local clan. Your task is a simple one. Explain what a smartphone is. Now, put aside a language barrier and that your audience would probably attack, kill, and probably eat you for supper, and focus on how you'd explain an object for phone calls, text messages, video, social media, apps, and internet browsing. And of course, that's to a caveman. This same question was put to a group of marketers at a recent conference workshop, and the best answer they came up with was a smartphone is a magical device that allows the owner to access all the knowledge and wisdom of the known universe, and it can be used to communicate to anyone, anywhere, anytime who possesses another magical device. Pretty succinct. To our prehistoric ancestors, this is, of course, pre-Stone Age, digital technology would seem miraculous, even divine. And yet, even 100 years ago, the digital age was still unthinkable. There was a cartoon in Punch magazine, for those of you old enough to remember Punch magazine, from May 1907, where a man and a woman in Edwardian dress have aerials sprouting from their heads. The caption underneath reads, "The lady is receiving an amorous message. The gentleman, some racing results." This was pure fantasy, a joke for the readers of Punch magazine, and yet how prophetic. In 29th of June 2007, 100 years later, Apple Computers launched the first iPhone. And if we fast forward to 2018, the average millennial, of course that's the generation born between 81 and 97, apparently check their phones on average 150 times a day. And 2/3 admit to always taking their phones when they go to the bathroom. Collectively, connectivity is now a way of life for millions, if not billions of people across the globe. Today, technology has changed the way we think, act, feel, and help shapes the relationships we have with other human beings. Presenting at today's conference, we have a historian of the future, Dr. James Bellini. James will open our speaker program shortly. And in doing so, will, I'm sure, open our minds with fascinating insights into how our lives will evolve in the years to come. When it comes to hearing technology, progress over the last 20 years alone has been exponential. If we remind ourselves that the first so-called hearing devices, hearing trumpets, were invented in the late 1700s, it took another 150 years for the first body-worn hearing device to be invented in 1950. However, in the last few decades, we've gone from the first digital signal processors to smart technology and remote tuning of hearing devices. The rate of change has been so rapid that sometimes there's a sense of journeying into the unknown. From analog to digital, to custom, to invisible, to connected, to rechargeable, to remote, to where next. In the US, hearing devices can now be purchased over the counter, which has sparked a debate about the potential loss of expertise and adequate safety standards. We're very pleased to have Dr. Wayne Stabb presenting at conference, an academic and audiologist. He's flown over from the US specially to present an American perspective on how audiologists are responding. Few would argue that the future of technology has implications both positive and negative for wider society, and indeed for humanity itself. Now we'll hear from Curtis Alcock, a familiar and respected name in the profession, and founder of the hearing think tank Audify. He'll give his views on how to capitalize on evolving technology and changing consumer behavior. Alan Giles joins us from Oxford University's Said Business School. He'll focus on consumer expectations and the trends we'll need to be mindful of if we're to anticipate and exceed consumer expectations. For some, it's easy to sound alarmist when talking about technological change, to be nostalgic about the old days, when people had real human connections and proper conversations. But it's naive to want to stay in the past and not embrace the vast benefits technology brings to society. And talking about having proper conversations, we can relate this to our own industry and profession, where technology is enabling people with profound hearing loss to do just that, to have proper conversations, and sometimes for the first time in their lives, or simply recover human connections that faded over time. Our technology, combined with your caring professional services, is literally giving people back a quality of life they couldn't have hoped for not so many years ago. Thankfully, evolving technology is beginning to change social perceptions about hearing loss, tackling the stigma that persists around wearing hearing instruments. And you'll notice I'm not saying hearing aids for good reason. As an association, we are committed to encouraging people away from the language of impairment and toward the concept of hearing well throughout life. This means encouraging people to consider regular hearing checks as the norm, just as we all visit the dentist and optician on a regular cycle. This transformation won't, of course, happen overnight. It takes time to change public attitudes, but it can be done if we all share a common goal. We're delighted to have Professor Bridget Shield with us today, who will be sharing the preliminary findings from her latest research into the impact of hearing loss in Europe, affecting individual well-being and cognition, but also the broader implications for social and family life, and indeed the financial cost of hearing loss to European economies. There's even more evidence too this year, published by Helen Amiva, the Helen Amiva study, which finds an increased risk of dementia and depression in those with hearing loss, an increase which is eliminated by the use of hearing technology. We all know dementia and depression in the elderly is a major health as well as economic challenge facing the future of society as a whole. Our sector has a major role to play in offering people a lifeline, a better quality of life, not just in their later years, but throughout life. Another distinguished keynote speaker on tomorrow's program is Nicola Palmarini, an expert in artificial intelligence and its role in health aging. He will help us, as an industry and profession, to think creatively about product development and tailored care to better serve those in need of our services. So with the right resources and a common understanding across all stakeholders, there are so many areas of society where we can have a positive impact. However, the challenge in the future as technology evolves is anticipating change and responding in an efficient and cost-effective way. One of the central themes of this conference is based upon the Eurotrack Global Survey of Hearing Loss. This is research partially funded by BIHIMA, which is published every 5 years. Today, we have an exclusive access to UK data within the 2018 report. We will look at some of these macro findings on the use of hearing instruments to better inform the debate about the future. This session will be led by our good friend from the European Manufacturers Association and its Secretary General, Stefan Zimmer, and BIHIMA board member, Alistair Tate. So there's a really dynamic program to look forward to over the next 2 days. And to get you fully involved, we're offering an incentive. We're calling it a session check-in. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to collect key information as you go around the conference and exhibition. There's no need to write anything down. This is a technology treasure hunt. You'll input your answers into the conference app you've downloaded. That's assuming you already have done so. If you haven't, ask a colleague or the registration desk for help. There's over £250 worth of vouchers for the delegate who tops the league table at the end of the conference, plus other prizes. BIHIMA members can earn CPD points for taking part in the session check-in and for attending all the educational talks. There's an extra CPD point for those who attend the BIHIMA's AGM, which is being held tomorrow at midday. My very sincere thanks to David Wellborn and his team at BIHIMA for their support and collaboration with the educational programme scheduled for tomorrow.